I think it's important for us to take a deep breath and recognize that 2020, not only has it been unprecedented, but it has been inspirational. For many of you mayors and council members who ran for office last year, you had no idea what you were in for. This has been a baptism by fire, but it's also been a baptism by pandemic. It's been a baptism by flood in some parts of the state. It's been a baptism by earthquake. It's been a baptism by civil unrest. It's been a baptism by hurricane. Somehow we had a hurricane, but of course we did in 2020. And it doesn't matter if you're a newly elected mayor and council member, or if you're a long-time tenured mayor or council member, 2020 is one for the history books. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve in your communities. And thank you for your engagement within the Utah League of Cities and Towns. In my home, or my 2-year-old daughter, Annalise, loves Daniel Tiger. For those of you who may not remember, Daniel Tiger was a puppet on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's how I remember him from my childhood. But my daughter, Annalise, loves watching the Daniel Tiger show as a staple of the day. We also often read Daniel Tiger books, so you can see that on the screen. Well, one of her favorite books is Look for the Helpers. And I should say that Daniel Tiger is basically a member of my family now. That's how much time we spend with Daniel Tiger. But this is one of her favorites, Look for the Helpers. Over the course of the last few months, we have learned from Annalise that she has confidence in her family and she has confidence in the helpers. Well, it dawned on me the other day that when she talks about the helpers, she's talking about you. She's talking about you as city leaders who provide the public services and the infrastructure that she and all of us rely on for our quality of life, regardless of the adversity that we may be facing. Well, what then do we do at the Utah League of Cities and Towns? Well, we help the helpers, to use a basketball term from my old basketball coaching days. We help the helpers. We help you by making sure you have the legal authority and the tools that you need. We help you by advocating for you in the halls of Congress and at Utah's Capitol Hill. We help you by making sure you have the training and the resources that you need to make good decisions in your community. Decisions that matter not just for today, but for tomorrow. We help you by sharing what good things work, sharing best practices among cities, and also demonstrating to the public how cities work. In that case, how have we helped the helpers over the past year? Well, first, we saw many of you in person. I know that feels hard to believe right now as I'm talking to a virtually empty ballroom, but we saw many of you in person between last September and March. In fact, we saw almost 1,500 people at the different events that we hosted from 169 cities and towns. Because of COVID, we had to cancel our in-person events, but hopefully we can start those up again soon. We helped you at the Utah State Legislature. But what we found over the last couple of years is that's not just a 45-day session, even though this year we worked on 218 bills and we achieved our success rate on more than 95% of those. But the advocacy is a year-round effort. In fact, one of our biggest accomplishments over the past year was making sure that the legislature understood that there could be ripple effects from proposed tax reform on cities, and we were able to prevent those ripple effects in the course of that dialogue. We help the helpers by communicating with you about the best practices that you're doing and how cities work. So we had 21 episodes of our Cities Work podcast. You can see that we had 127 traditional media mentions over the last year. That's almost one every 3 days. And then we have bolstered our social media presence. We help you by communicating with you weekly in our Friday Facts email. If you're not receiving Friday Facts, let us know. You can put something in the chat box or reach out to us. We'll make sure that you get on that email list. We help the helpers by strengthening our strategic partnerships. Y2 Analytics was one, but this conference is happening in part because of those strategic partnerships. The American Planning Association Utah chapter and Wasatch Trent Regional Council have been instrumental in providing you with the virtual programming and the mobile tours that you are benefiting from this week. And you can see some of the other partners that we've worked with to try to maximize our reach. Like all of you, our lives basically changed overnight at the end of the legislative session when COVID came to Utah. We realized that we needed to pivot immediately in order to continue to help the helpers and fulfill our mission of advocacy, communication, and training. and we needed to do so in different ways. As a result, we started a virtual town hall series. We held 30 of those between March and beginning of August. We had state and federal policymakers. We even were able to get you information at times before that information was even public, and we averaged 187 attendees at those 30 virtual town halls. On a personal note, we welcomed another daughter to our home. This is baby Sierra, and she has, in her first 4 months of life, she's appeared on more Zoom calls than I was on in the previous 4 years. But welcome to 2020, right? She's now a veteran. Our advocacy efforts continue to help the helpers. Wayne Bradshaw talked to you a moment ago about the CARES Act. And I want to point out a key component of the CARES Act. When Congress passed it in the spring, they directly allocated exactly $0 to cities and towns in Utah. Not a dime went to any city or town in Utah. Instead, the CARES Act allocated money to states and to cities and counties around the country that had more than 500,000 people. We don't have any cities and towns above 500,000 people in Utah. So as a result, our advocacy team, working with our counterparts at the Association of Counties and the efforts of many of you, worked collaboratively with the state of Utah and other stakeholders to ensure that CARES Act dollars made it to cities and towns. According to the most recent data that we've received from the National League of Cities, and I'm a board member at the NLC, many cities and towns across the country have been left out of CARES Act dollars. In fact, only 10% of those funds have actually made it down to cities, even though up to 45% of that fund may go to cities, towns, and counties. Yet here in Utah, we have exceeded that number, and as Wayne indicated, there's still the third tranche to go that we're working on. So we look at this as a great success and really an example of that collaboration, respect, and outcomes that Victoria referenced a moment ago. We've also advocated in the 6 legislative special sessions that have occurred thus far, and we've been involved in the development and implementation of the Utah Leads Together plan, all iterations of them throughout the year. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, within days in June after the death of Mr. George Floyd in Minneapolis, we initiated the Love, Listen, Lead effort in a joint partnership with the Utah Chiefs of Police Association to make sure that we were working together to ensure community trust in police. COVID-19, though, has impacted the League of Cities and Towns as an organization. As you all know, you're not here, so we've not had any in-person events since March. But I want to publicly thank our sponsors. Most of them have remained with the League, even though we've lost that in-person component. So thank you to you as sponsors for your support. Most of our staff has been working from home, like many of you. We reduced our budget by more than 7%. Like all of you in your cities, our board of directors, which consists of mayors and council members from around the state, worked with the League staff to make some tough decisions about our budget. Our budget is $2.6 million. That's our annual revenue. The board decided to freeze membership dues for this upcoming year, and we had a general salary freeze within staff. But we've been working hard to retain every city and town as a member because ultimately we're stronger together. I also think it's important here, though, to recognize that our staff has really gone above and beyond the call of duty over the last few months to make sure that we deliver our objectives and our mission to you despite the challenging circumstances. So I want to thank by name Victoria Ashby and Wayne Bradshaw, Carson Eilers, John Park, and Roger Tu, who handle our legislative advocacy work and the expansive portfolio that we have there. I want to thank Nick Jarvis, Katie Harley, Susan Wood, Abby Volek, Meg Ryan, and John Oliver, who are our home team and handle our training and communications efforts. Again, I am proud of the work that we have collectively done to meet our mission during challenging times. What's then to come in 2021? First, continued legislative advocacy. This is core to everything that we do for you. Brace yourself for the 2021 session. Victoria already gave you the bad news. There are a lot of issues coming that are critical, and we need your help. You are members of the League Army, and your voice on Capitol Hill matters. We need you to talk to your legislators. And in some of your cities, you're going to have new legislators this fall, and that's great. Introduce yourselves to them. Make sure they know what the primary issues are in your city or town. Make sure they know that you're a proud member of the League of Cities and Towns. Likewise, if you have legislators coming back, make sure you foster those relationships so that when things get crazy during the session, your legislator is just a phone call away or a text message away saying, hey, we really care about this policy issue. It's going to impact our city. Your voice matters, and we need all of us to engage at a high level in 2021. Normally I would give you a countdown, but I can't do that yet because of Amendment F. If you don't know what Amendment F is, look it up. But once we know if Amendment F is going to pass, then we'll know when the legislature is going to start. And don't you fret, we'll get you that countdown. The second big news in this upcoming year is that we will have a new website and bill tracking software to make it easier for you to access resources on our website. That will be ready in the next few weeks. So we'll let you know as soon as it is ready. It'll be hot off the virtual presses for you. Third, we'll have a new approach to the general counsel role that I'll reference in a moment. And fourth, we'll have continued programming on the economic impact and other legal policy training similar to what we've been doing over the last few months. Finally, we hope to see you and our sponsors in person in 2021. Local Officials Day, admittedly, is still up in the air. We don't know if the legislature is going to open the Capitol to the public. At this point, the Capitol is not yet open to the public. But we are already working to have a mid-year conference in person in St. George, April 21st through the 23rd, and then to join together with you here at the Salt Palace in September. Mayor John Pike, I know you're listening. You have been a tremendous advocate for the League of Cities and Towns. You helped to rebuild the credibility of the organization during your 6 years on the board and as your time as president. And tomorrow is your last day as a League board member. But since you're a League board member, I do have one more request of you. And that is April 21st through 23rd. Make sure we have perfect weather so that we can enjoy each other's company in sunny St. George next spring. Mayor Pike, thank you for everything that you've done for the League during your 6 years in leadership. I mentioned the website. This is a sneak peek of what it's going to look like, so stay tuned for that in the weeks to come. And then I also mentioned that we were going to be reimagining our general counsel role. And that's because the one and only Dave Church is retiring from the League at the end of the month. Dave has been the general counsel for the League of Cities and Towns for more than 30 years. He's been advising local governments for almost 40. There's no way to replace Dave Church, not at the League, not in your individual cities and towns. On a personal note, Dave has been a great friend and mentor to me and a great support, starting when I was an intern back in 2006, all the way up to the present day. So Dave, we will miss you, and you have certainly earned your retirement, and I hope you're able to fish more than ever. We'll be rethinking and working together with the Municipal Attorneys Association about the next steps after Dave Church. But Dave, thank you for the contribution that you've made to the state. The state of Utah and local governments in general are better because of your contributions. In a way, I guess you could say for the last 40 years, we've all been living in Mr. Church's neighborhood. So thank you, Dave. I also want to thank Mike Mendenhall. Mike has been the president during a tumultuous year, but has been on the League board now for 4 years. He was on the League board when the board took a chance on me, and for that I'm grateful. When Mike became the second vice president, the first thing that he did was to chair our Constitutional Review Committee, where we modernized the organization, updated the Constitution and the bylaws, and really tried to rebuild the trust that you would have in us as an organization. Mike interviewed all of the Republican gubernatorial candidates this spring before COVID, hosted Local Officials Day with Speaker Brad Wilson and President Stuart Adams, led editorial board visits to the Salt Lake Tribune and Deseret News last fall, has been a tireless advocate for Spanish Fork City, or Mike, I've got to do this for you as well as for your colleagues in Spanish Fork, but has really championed both the Fit City effort there as well as QPR that will be in a roundtable later today, and was a great ambassador for the Utah League at the National League of Cities. In fact, you'll see that Mike and I are there in front of the Alamo when we attended the National League of Cities convention in San Antonio. That was the fulfillment of a childhood dream for me to finally see the Alamo. Mike, my wife, is still jealous that you were there and she was not. And the other picture is of you testifying at the Capitol, which many times, let's be real, feels like the Alamo. But Mike, thank you for your leadership at the League, which will continue because you'll still be on the board for another year and you're the co-chair of the Love, Listen, Lead initiative. Most importantly though, Mike is a dedicated father, husband, and friend, and a champion for Spanish Fork City. So Mike, thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. Everybody knows that I'm a Murray kid. I'm proud of my hometown. I think Murray is the best city in America. So I say this as probably the best compliment that I could give Mike and Spanish Fork. Mike has basically convinced me that Spanish Fork is the Murray of Utah County. So Mike, thank you for everything. I'm grateful that you'll still be on the board though, because we're excited to still have you, and I'm super excited. I'm thrilled to have Ogden Mayor Mike Caldwell take the reins as the next League president. Mayor Caldwell has been in leadership positions in the league for several years. It is one of the longest tenured mayors in the state and has the respect of state leaders and local leaders across Utah. He's a visionary. You look at what Ogden has become today, and you can see the fingerprints of Mayor Caldwell and his colleagues, and I'm grateful to have his leadership, friendship, and support. Mayor Caldwell is a tireless advocate for economic development, for public safety, for outdoor recreation, and ultimately the quality of life that we all enjoy in Utah. So get ready to hear more about O-Town in the next 12 months. And Mayor Caldwell, we're excited to have you as the incoming league president. In closing, this is the State of the League address, where I report back to you of what we've done, what we plan to do, and give you an update on the state of affairs within the organization. We are financially sound. Even in light of COVID, we've made smart budget decisions to make sure we can weather this storm. We have a tremendous staff that works day and night on your behalf. We have a phenomenal officer corps and board of directors that is always thinking about how do we advance the needs of cities? How do we promote respect, collaboration, and outcomes at the Capitol and ensure we're meeting our mission of advocacy, training, and communications? In short, because of people like Dave Church, Mike Mendenhall, John Pike, Mike Caldwell, and because of you, I'm proud to report that the state of the league is strong. Thank you very much for your support of the Utah League of Cities and Towns.